What's going on, Colts Nation? Welcome back to another episode of Bring the Juice. Cody here, along with my friend from Inside the Horseshoe Podcast, Matt. Matt, how are you doing, man? It's been a bit. How are you?
It has been a little bit, but I am doing good. I'm excited. We're very, very close to the NFL draft, which it feels like yesterday. We were a few months away. So,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah.
See, I know it's been one of those things, man, where I'm just like, let's just get the pick in. Let's just get
Yeah.
these. Obviously, I've been looking forward to this weekend, but it's just been dragging on the last couple of weeks. So I'm like, let's just get to it. Let's just get it knocked out. And let's talk about something other than four different options potentially for the Colts, if not more, at the quarterback position. I'm just ready to kind of get an idea and get an answer and then start talking about other topics. So
Mm.
with that being said, Matt, I wanted to talk about something that came out just recently from ESPN's Matt Miller. He said, and this is via StampedeBlue.com, they reported this. He said the Indianapolis Colts could still trade up to the Arizona Cardinals draft slot. So that would be from pick 4 to pick 3, respectively, depending on how the upcoming 2023 NFL draft, our top draft board, plays out on Thursday night. He had this to say. He said, with the Colts backed into a corner, quarterback has to be the play at round 1. One league source with knowledge of the Colts thinking they might ultimately flip picks to the Cardinals, but that would be an on-the-clock move and not one that happens pre-draft. So, Matt, we've talked about this a little bit. We've thrown that out as a possibility, even pre-draft, like could the Colts be potentially interested in, trying to trade up to 3 and ensuring they get their guy at quarterback if they've kind of identified a guy that they want to, they feel like is going to be there. But I think especially recently with kind of all the smoke and all the craziness around really the top 3 picks before Indianapolis, there is a realistic possibility here that Houston doesn't take a quarterback. Or if they do, there's been a lot of smoke and a lot of steam about Will Levis potentially going to 2. So that would leave, one of 2, I think, of if you talk about a lot of Colts fans' choices, C.J. Stroud or Anthony Richardson, one of those 2 guys I think we would gladly take. What's your overall thoughts just on where do you sense that like Houston might be going in terms of the number 2 overall pick? And then if they do, say pass on a quarterback or go with like Will Levis or something,
Mhm.
how do you think that maybe changes what the Colts would do in terms of potentially looking to move up to number 3 with the Cardinals?
So at the moment, I do feel like they're going to take quarterback. I know Adam Schefter and other people said that Houston might not go quarterback, and they're not convinced that they will go quarterback, but that's how I'm feeling personally. It could be Stroud. I do think it could be Levis too, because he does have everything you want in an NFL quarterback. There's just things that he needs to work on and develop on. And, he could potentially do that in Houston. So if it's Will Levis that's taken, or if they go defense, then I do think there's a chance that the Colts will want to trade up. And that's what I would do personally. I feel like Atlanta might trade up to try to get CJ Stroud. I think the Raiders, they could be somebody that trades up, even if Stroud is taken at 2. Maybe they're like, you know what, we want Richardson so we can develop him for a year behind Jimmy Garoppolo. So I do feel like a lot of teams are going to want to trade, especially if Stroud's available at 3. And I do think that the Colts look at CJ Stroud as their number 1 guy that they feel they can realistically get. I think Bryce Young could have been in that conversation, but he's going 1 or 2, in my opinion. It just depends who's taken at 1. So I think Stroud realistically is his number 1 option. And if he's available, I think he's going to trade up. He did say a few months ago that if their guy is available, they're going to do whatever it takes to get that guy. And maybe that guy wasn't Bryce Young, or maybe it was Bryce Young and CJ Stroud. And they're just kind of waiting to see how the, draft goes with those 2.
Yeah, and I think it makes a lot of sense from the standpoint of like, okay, you're not, to move up to 1, obviously, we knew what it
Mhm.
took for Carolina to do that. I mean, multiple first-round picks, a stud wide receiver in his prime. Like, it took a lot for them
Yeah.
to make the jump to 1, which was fine. It was good for them. They got their guy. They're going to get probably Bryce Young from what we've heard. But, like, for the Colts, I think maybe the patience here maybe is going to pay off, where, maybe you had CJ Stroud as your guy all along, right? That you really felt like him and Bryce Young were like the number 1 tier. And then obviously you have like Richardson, Levis, and some of those guys in maybe the 2 tier, if you will. And you felt like, man, we have confidence that something's going to go not according to what people are going to say, and you kind of like let it play out a little bit and kind of were feeling it out. Like right now you said we feel good where we are at 4. There is a possibility though, honestly, Matt, it would be crazy, but like if Houston were to take like Levis, for example, and Arizona takes Will Anderson, could the Colts potentially just like CJ Stroud falls right into their laps at number 4, right? There's a lot of possibilities here, but if Arizona's really fielding calls and you really feel like we have to go and, trade up and give away some draft capital to do it, if he's your guy, I think it's definitely worth it to get a guy like CJ Stroud, which would be definitely interesting. And actually interesting enough, Matt Miller also did have CJ Stroud falling to 4. So for the Colts in his latest mock draft, or his final mock draft rather. So it's kind of interesting how that would play out. But ultimately, I do think, it's going to depend how the board falls, and really when the number 3 pick is there and available, if it does become available, do the Colts decide it's worth it, or does Arizona feel comfortable enough to stay there? I mean, we've said it for weeks and months now, Matt. The trade with Indianapolis and Arizona makes sense for both sides. Indianapolis goes up and they ensure they get their top guy or one of their top guys, and Arizona moves back 1 and they still get probably the best defensive player on the board there. I personally feel like it just makes too much sense for both sides.
Yeah, I think Arizona really wants the Colts to trade. That's why I don't think we're going to see a trade with Arizona until draft day, whether it's the Raiders making that trade, Falcons, the Lions, maybe they surprise some people and they make a trade. I think Arizona's waiting until draft day because they're going to have all these different offers already sitting at the table. And if Will Anderson's available, if the Colts don't trade with Arizona, I think there's a chance they also stay at 3 because it just depends what are they being offered, because they might look at, Will Anderson and think, okay, we think he's more valuable than 1 additional pick or 2 additional picks, because there's a lot of people that think he is the best player in the entire draft. So maybe they'd say, you know what? Will Anderson's available at 3. Houston, they went with a quarterback. Unless Indianapolis offers us a trade, or unless we get something that's too good to turn down, we're staying at 3 and we're going to go ahead and we're going to take Will Anderson. I think that's definitely still on the table. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
It's so crazy where you just don't get a feel for what's going to happen, man. Like literally like 3, 4, 5 scenarios could realistically happen here. And I do wonder like how much of that is just Arizona trying to, leverage that to get some picks, because that is the ultimate question for Arizona. Are they comfortable if they trade with, whoever you want to say, they move back 3, 4, 5 picks or whatever it is. And they're, the bottom half of the top 10, and a guy like Will Anderson slips and falls to Seattle. Like, are you willing to be okay with that? To your division rival, basically gift wrapping them the best pass rusher, potentially the best player in the draft. Or is it more of them trying to drive the price up? And if Indy doesn't budge with what the price they're asking, then they just stay at 3 and they draft Will Anderson anyway. It's a very much like a chess and checkers play. It feels like where they're trying to get the Colts to flinch. They're trying to get the Colts to potentially make a move. Now, maybe that's not the case, and they're realistically considering trading down. Maybe they're, it seems like from what I've heard, maybe both sides have been talking for a number of weeks now. So maybe they're just trying to Indianapolis has a set price. We know how much Chris Ballard and them, they are very when they set a price, they don't budge from that price.
Yeah, they're very stern.
They're very stern, very stubborn in what they do and what they ask. And they do that even with free agents and stuff and the amount of money they're willing to offer. So you do wonder, is it more like Arizona's trying to get the Colts to budge? The Colts aren't budging like they normally don't. Arizona's trying to drive up the price a little bit. And maybe eventually, if Arizona sits there and they say, we're getting some decent offers, but it's not worth trading down that far and potentially missing out on a generational pass rush type of guy, the best player in the draft. So I could see that kind of being the tension right now. And maybe eventually Arizona just is like, well, we're going to get something at least, and we're still going to get our guy. So there's so many different scenarios. It's going to be so interesting to see how it does play out. But certainly it's on the table for Indianapolis. I would not be opposed to it. just for insurance sake and just making sure, we've said it all along. If you feel like there's a guy there available for you, you do whatever you can to go get that guy. And so maybe Indianapolis has a little bit more leverage here where they're like, hey, we like all these guys. Obviously they haven't really said like we like certain guys over other guys really. So maybe, they're playing a little bit of like I don't know. They're basically not like showing their hand at all right now. They're being very internal. They're keeping it very close to the chest right now. And maybe and I think they're doing that strategically so that a team like Arizona, they don't know. They're like, and he's like, all right, if you're not going to trade with us, we're content staying where we're at. But maybe their goal is to try to get their guy at the price that they want. They're trying to set the tone here.
Right.
It's just interesting. So it'll definitely be interesting to monitor, man, this number 3, number 4 pick here and kind of how that plays out. And, maybe at the end of the day, both sides decide, hey, the best course for both of us is to stay where we are and pick the respective players we want. And nobody gets, anything, no harm, no foul there. So obviously that would be a best case scenario for Indianapolis. But the trick is, the question is, I guess, like, where's Arizona? What are they trying to accomplish? What are their goal here? Where are they at in terms of trading down? And we don't know that question. Only they know that question. So it's going to be interesting to monitor, man, as are the first 3 picks in general. It's one of those drafts where we really don't know what's going to happen. Like it's not like there's the Joe Burrow coming out where it's like, well, obviously he's going number 1. Like, I think Bryce Young's going 1, but like it's been CJ Stroud for a little bit. It's been Richardson. It's been Levis, maybe less Levis, but it's been a lot of like, we don't know. And now we're starting to hopefully get a little bit of more of a feel here for what's going on. But it's crazy, man. Just absolutely crazy.
Yeah, definitely. I have no idea what's going to happen. It seems like everything's going to change. We'll probably find out tomorrow that Will Levis is going to be the first overall pick. And then the next day we'll find out, no, it's going to be CJ Stroud. And then we'll eventually get to Anthony Richardson on draft day. We just don't know. It's going to be crazy. And I think the second pick is where things could really just go absolutely nuts that day. Does Houston trade back? Like maybe somebody trades up if Bryce Young is there. It's going to be crazy. I have no idea. I'm excited, though. I can't wait.
It's going to be awesome. Like, I'm nervous for the Colts because I want them to get this right, obviously, but also, I'm so excited to see how this plays out because literally, I think these are the best kind of drafts where nobody knows what's going to happen. And it's pretty much all like, we think this might happen, but it very easily could not happen. It could go a completely different direction. So it's going to be a fun draft to monitor, especially those first 3 to 4 picks there. And obviously there's always surprises on draft day. So don't be surprised if some players you thought were going to go a certain place don't. So trades happen, things like that happen. It's just kind of the nature of the NFL draft. So it's going to be a ton of fun. Thank you, Matt, for coming on. Really appreciate it as always. Thank you guys for tuning in. Let me know your thoughts here on this report of Indianapolis potentially looking to trade up with the Arizona Cardinals on draft night. Let me know your thoughts. Do you think that would be a good idea? What do you think the Colts' kind of strategy here is in terms of potentially trading up, potentially trying to get their guy, as CJ Stroud was to fall to 3? For the Cardinals potentially to trade out or to trade with Indy. Let me know those things. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Really appreciate all the support. And as always, guys, go Colts.